Good evening and welcome. And all of you have spared some time and come, so thank you so much for that. And Pritam ji and Aseem, uh, really happy that you could make it. Uh, Actually, the veteran printmaker that he is, and the quality of his art is such that we haven't yet seen any other printmaker achieve the way he does. And now he tells us that he's the sixth generation in his family doing art, so that's a very rare thing. I think, Pritam ji, I'll leave it to you to tell us a little more about yourself.
Yeah. Uh, See, I'm that way. I am born and brought up in Mumbai only. My father was also artist. That's how I entered in the. I studied in Raheja School of Art, interior. I mean, and at the same time, I done architecture college, interior design decoration.
So, Aseem is a young researcher. He's into urban planning and urban research. And the reason that we have these two people here is they are at the two ends. We have a veteran architectural printmaker, and we have a young man who is looking at the digital side, the technology, the things needed for urban planning in today's way. So, talking about the way he has been doing prints of different cities, especially, and the architectural interest, is that what got you interested in architecture?
Um, I mean, I used to work in the studio once in a while. Like he let me run around the place. He had a nicer studio in Dombivli. We had a bigger studio in Dombivli, and at that time I used to engage with it. And because I always saw him working on architectural subjects, and it was also an idea that this is somehow more secure. It's not, and yeah, so we went for that rather than to study fine art or to study any other plastic art. um,
So tell us a little about what you
so
do as an urban researcher.
right. What I do as a researcher is mostly to, on one hand, write about the history of the city, history of planning, urban planning in the city, and then we like collect data, we map the like things. I'm working with an organization right now, so but mostly I work on my by myself, and after mapping, we have to figure out what kind of interventions that we can make in the city, and if we can convince the state to incorporate those interventions within their schemes, general.
So
Um,
your interventions are your mapping is to do with people and
with
infrastructure, or what?
infrastructure that is like how does infrastructure take people into account is the mapping for, like, for example, if you have like there are a lot of, it's not a flat city, right? Bombay is not a flat city. There's a lot of topological challenges, but the way usually how the state has dealt with those topological, like, topographic challenges is just cut into the mountain and quarry the stone or whatever. Like if you see in Powai, that's a very big example how they just cut the stone out and then put up buildings, which creates problems. And these kind of problems also exist in areas where there's no, Hiranandani who is going to deal with that problem for you. So, informal settlements for them, for example, you have people who have to deal with these problems by themselves without any state intervention, without any state help, and without any recognition of them as being citizens and having equal rights within the city, and so on and so forth. So it's not that I help anybody. It's just that we document those issues with the organization that I'm working with right now, and we try to make sure that everybody gets this equal treatment from the state. That you're not treated
So
differently just because you're poor.
are you also responsible in mapping where there should be a building, or where there should be a public park or things like
That
that? Do you do urban planning as
so
well?
I don't do planning. I assess if the state, like the state has, for every city, if you are a city, like for example now Thane is a city or Dombivli is a city. So they will have their own plan. So they will have a set of open areas, they will have a set of hospitals and this and that, demarcated as space in the plan. So part of the challenge is to see if anybody is actually building it. Then the challenge is to see how it is being built, how it's financed, and so on and so forth. And then we have to figure out if like we have to create a framework for what is just, what is unjust.
Viable.
Not viable, more like from a jurisprudence sense, like if this is justice or if this is unjust in that sense. And then you say that you have built this park in such and such manner, this is how it was financed and this is how it is going to function. Like for example, if you see what happens at the what do you call the sea face in Bandra,
Promenade.
the promenade. So a lot of times, hanging on the edge of the promenade, you see a lot of people who are being discouraged from entering the space. So then that space becomes exclusive. So then that's an open space in the city. It's counted as an open space within the map. But then that's not really an open space that is accessible to everyone. So then you have to figure out who is it allocated for.
Okay, so the
Those kind
human
of things.
element.
Today, what we had thought we would do together was to talk about the history of the city and like take you through a little bit of, not a little bit probably because this map is from the 1700s. So yeah, so to walk through the whole thing, and then
You can.
okay,
Please continue.
um,
Yeah.
to see his paintings within that history. They're not necessarily from an authorial intent or from a curatorial intent located within that history specifically. But since we're talking about history, we can see some of those images as a part of that story. So then, like for example, this is a map from the 1764, it says. A lot of times these are maps which are based on memory, on based on older accounts from the either the East India Company people or from the Jesuits who were administering the area for the Portuguese crown. I don't remember. Yeah. So, for example, in the map, like I broke up the map a little bit and then highlighted the parts. Like so, this edge is Bandra, and so the Bandra and Mahim churches were built by those Jesuit priests. So the way we understand history is the seven islands and this and that. The seven islands are just like the lower half of the island city, which starts south of Bandra. And the rest of the thing was always the way it was, and it was a swamp. Like that's why I cut out the land. It seems from the map that it was this whole chunk of land, which it never was, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in the next slide. So they started governing from Parel, which also we don't talk about all that much. We also always assume that it already happened in South Bombay, in some part of South Bombay. It started actually the British started administering Bombay from Parel first, and then they shifted into the fort area. The fort did exist, but it was more from a fortification, from a military standpoint. It was important. So then oh wait, what happened? Just a minute, oh sorry. Uh,
हे पण तेच बरोबर होतं आधी
Uh, yeah, so I just wanted to highlight how much of a uh, you know like a swamp condition it was. Like in this map, especially, you can understand like how the area was developed. So the big map that you see behind that, and like the fort and the native town. So this is all that was developed for a very long time till the middle of the 18th, like 19th century. And so the rest of it is just a swamp, like very big swamp. You don't have any development, any building over there, but you have intense urbanization in one small southern part of the city. And in that respect, we'll see this image that you will talk about.
this particular print is done in on a zinc plate. That there are two techniques I use. One is this they are catching the crocodile. It is I shown is like that. No, the figures has been done in etching and aquatic, and this rest of the white background and the crocodile is deep etching has been done. Because of the deep etching, and when you are doing taking out the print, the process is like you have to do the intaglio. Where you do the intaglio, you don't get a emboss effect. If you get a you want to emboss effect, you don't do the intaglio. So this particular part I've done intaglio. Rest without intaglio, I just run a hard roller. Because of a hard roller, it doesn't go down with the where the actual deep etching is. So that you will get it as a paper white. So that's how you got the emboss.
Right. Okay. Right. So okay, then also I want like the image was in the right place. Sorry, I thought it wasn't. But what I wanted to also show with this image is that there is this large community of people living, even though it's a swamp. There's a large community of people living in a native town as such that is called. And a native town doesn't mean that there's just Indian people living there. There's a lot of Europeans living there. You can see a lot of European graveyards, European schools, church, all those kind of facilities in the area. And uh, so there's an event that happens later on in the city where the racial division becomes more normal. But till this point, the people are living together with those environmental conditions as well as with the political conditions. And then, in that respect, we'll like look at the next image, which is
This is a plate lithography done on the tinted paper, and the actual drawing has been done. This temple is somewhere in Dhuleshwar, and that uh, uh, line drawings, charcoal effects, all this done to try to show that how the temple is, and the white portion that actual temples Gaba is shown.
so like there is open space and there is
Open.
a social space
Hmm.
around which did exist at that point of time. And so I try to locate that. I in my head the print is located in that time. Then
This.
like I'll talk and then
Mhm.
you go ahead. uh, what I want to emphasize over here is the experience of like urbanity, in the sense that being an urban citizen is a different thing and being in a otherwise a different thing. And for that era, in the early 19th century, for example, because you're seeing both the conditions of how the environment is around you and how the city is being developed at a very rapid rate by these foreign people. Um, and in conjunction with the merchant elite of the city, you see markets being built up, railways being put up, and the sense of being an urban citizen may not have been new from a socio-economic point of view, but from an image point of view, how you see new things, how you see like the scale of the buildings, how you see how the construction happens. It's a fundamentally different experience for the people who live there and for the people who are constantly migrating to the city at that point. So in that sense, we'll talk about the. You also see when the image was made, because this is an old one.
This particular image, this print I did in my first exhibition, 94. 94
1994.
was my first exhibition in Jahangir Art Gallery, and this particularly 3 feet by 6 feet print on the canvas I did. And why I use a canvas? Because when you have the frame print, you have to frame with a glass, and when you it comes glass, you have to look here and there, and then only you can see it. So I thought, why not using a canvas? So that time canvas was little bit hard. I mean, grains was more thick kind of. This is a lino cut, and I don't scared of using colors. I use so many colors in that. This is outside of Victoria Terminus station. They only on Sunday they used to sit. These people. Now there is, you don't find these sailors. But this is very interesting. I find it. That's why I did this. And there's all the gates, very. Behind.
So yeah, so this is one of the
Proper market.
invites from the show from
This is another show
1988.
98 I did.
Okay.
So
1990.
that
Okay.
time they used to give after 2 3 years, 2 years, Jahangir used to give the gallery. But then later on, so many people have started coming, so they avoid 4 to 5 years. They keep the cap.
Okay, right. So then, like again, moving ahead in the scheme of the city, they the idea is to take over territory using finance, using the economies, destabilizing other economies to build an economy in the city. So markets are a very big thing for the British to set up, and they do set up like the Mulji Jetha market, which is still existing. It's it was one of those first markets that was set up in the city for these people to be like, because they invited traders from Gujarat, from Surat especially. They wanted to destroy Surat so that the Mughal economy goes down, and eventually they were able to succeed. So then the market and the theme is a part of that, and the picture is from 1998. Yeah.
This is a lino cut, and I used maximum vignette I use in this. Vignette is, see, the when you are applying the roller one side is a lighter and other side is a darker. So that's how applications,
Shades.
and that you can get it on this. I try to maintain even in the structure also, so that you should get that roundity.
Right.
I would add. Otherwise, if you don't get a roundity, then there is no point of getting that this. But I was doing that interior. I mean, drawing was my subject. That is why I come means little bit familiar with the how to get it. Okay.
Especially with the.
Asim,
Go ahead, Aseem.
okay, this is
Uh,
again with recent 2020 I did this particular building. This is a window, from the window Victoria Terminus Station. This is actual block, and this is the print on the canvas. Okay, now there are two mediums I use. One is woodcut, and the second one is plate lithography. Plate lithography I use because that you get a softness on it. See that monkey, and the behind that Victoria Terminus, the black thing is done by plate lithography. And here I shown, I mean, given the grid. I shown a grid because when I used to do the uh, drawing used to done in our office, but they are referring on the site, Calcutta. So they have a grids, engineering and architect. They are always with a grid. That's why all this grid I shown in, and the Victoria Terminus. And this is also on the canvas reduction method, and 3 feet by 2 feet, 2 feet 6 inches. It's a good.
and also the picture is supposed to be seen from the BMC building.
Huh.
So you have the representation of the new architecture, but also of governance, of planning coming into the city. In any case, but the building is present by its absence. In that sense. This was just to show, like, to show the block matrix first, and then the
Hmm. Hmm. Okay, झालं हे.
yeah.
This is again another Victoria Terminus building, and this is done in a plate lithography. The plate lithography, you can do it like little bit of watercolor also effect. You can do it. Charcoal effect also can be done. It. There's so many things you can use. That depend upon how you are using the transferring the image. That is one thing. And second thing, this is I mean, so many animals and around the building, and plus so you can use at least I mean, forever you want to use as a Victoria Terminus, you will be able to do the I mean, drawings and sketching particular this building. This is again Victoria. On this the two prints are different time. This one is on the Victoria Terminus station, and the print on the canvas, and then this is
Size.
on the paper I did. And why I did after this is afterwards I did. When I was doing all this Victoria Terminus, someone was telling me that the see, this canvas has a grains, and wood is again has a grains. So the two grains you won't get that much fluently on the canvas because that. They were not getting that sometimes grain. So to avoid that, I use again paper. On the paper you can see that is a plywood. I mean, I'm using a first plywood. Now these days is a MDF is a very I mean very I mean you can use do it very fast. This is little bit difficult to do it carving, but you get a good result of this because first thing you have to have that registration. Each and every grains you have to match it second layer also. This is again reduction method. So difficult, but you get a very good result on using the plywood.
So good.
Hmm. Okay, now this is recently done in the print. Just now workshop has been last 2 days back. I finished the workshop. It's in the Nine Fish Gallery. It was so it's close to Bhaikala. So that's why how I show. I mean the Bhaikala station has been shown. Then this building is where the first plague victims.
So, like again, like from all the history that comes to a point where you have governance and everything set up, but the governance is specifically for aimed at trade and aimed at the European community, not at the workers community, and the neglect eventually manifests in the form of the plague that happens in 1896. And the building the building that one of the buildings, like he has made a collage of the thing, but this was a building where they found the first victims. And there on in the photograph you can see there are 17 circles marked on the building, and those represent the first 17 deaths from the plague in the city. But the local accounts say that there were actually 50 people dead. They counted 17, and after those 50 people died, the government started taking notice that there's something really wrong, and then it might also affect the European community. So that is
So that's how they are कुठलं ते King George नाही कुठलं Hopkins
the
Institute. They
Hafkin
are
Institute.
Hopkins. They are
The
showing
Hafkin Institute was like
close by, no?
we spoke of Parel in the first map.
Hmm.
That was the government house. That is from where they began governing Bombay, and in as a response to the plague, they converted it into a research laboratory.
So they are patient as well as at the building, and given the name is 17 Life, and this is done on etching, etching aquatine. Very small print, but come out. This is again Victoria Terminus station, so that black in the cab and all.
This is beautiful.
Hmm.
Very expressive.
Hmm. This is a drawing. This is not a print. Hmm. Hmm.
But also,
See, before you start doing the viscous, I mean, plate lithography, you have to do the drawing yourself. Then only it is, then that's the drawing on the,
it all content.
huh? No, on the paper. On paper, वाले. Ink on paper and
Yeah.
You have to do it to such fine detailing.
The more detail you do,
You get
more
it.
your paper finish. You will see.
So,
And Victoria
very
time-
recognition we do in
Exactly.
architecture.
There's so much depth to it.
And then that's taxis, and now they don't have that much taxis. Some scenario has changed towards the VT also.
Right, right, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just to show that transition between
Uh,
like vehicles and all of that stuff coming into the city, and general decline of the city from the 1850s onwards. So these are more recent works as you talk about the work.
so this is again 2020 show I did. There are two medium I used. One is plate lithography, and top of that monoprint has been done. So this is a concrete. I mean, how the VT. I mean, Mumbai has been getting burden and all that has been shown. Now this is the face where I mean that lady is on the top of that. It is covering with so much. That's how I show.
To show how like the city is in decline. Like the face is from a statue that is on the top
On
of
the top of
VT
wait.
building. So then about the suburbs that we talked about before of how so the suburbs are very much a product of planning in the sense that it's not that space was saturated in the city. It's that they needed a space for the poor people to live somewhere. So then they started like very purposely. Like if you read planning documents from 30s, 20s, or 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you see them very consciously sending poorer people towards the eastern and northern areas, and the affluent people in the western and the southern areas.
No,
No,
yeah. This is just shown all the how the suburb and huts
yeah.
are they are taking out and from the cities. Next, this is Nagla Bandar. Nagalabandar is in Thane. You will surprise that this ship building is going on. So there's this ship particularly made in a full wood he has done, and that structure he has done it. And behind this figures is which shown that Nagalabandar is a that area the government has marked that you should not take out sand by trawlers, you have to take it by manually. So how they do, how its work function, they take 20-30 feet long bamboo, and that ship particularly this ship goes into creek, and then they make that stand bamboo, and somebody put one person to person goes down and pour the sand in their bucket. He comes up and second one comes. This way goes for this way goes 5 to 6 hours. They goes in still goes in that area. Then even Vasai Virar also
I mean,
yeah.
they threatened him from taking pictures and stuff like that. He's scared of going
Yeah,
there
I
to
was
take
taking
pictures.
the pictures. So that time they thought that I am from the press and they should not see the daily day basis they do this, and then night they may take out the by trawlers. And this is how they work. But this is very bad for them. If you see the
For
such
the
a bad
workers.
creek, they are not using any mask. They are not hardly 15 years life they live. Then they get all disease because of the water and all. But still, I have so many photographs on this.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Hello.
No.
This is again.
So yeah.
This is again the redevelopment or a plastering projects when goes on, and you have to cover with the green cloth and all that I have seen, and then that all that buildings and very nice print has come. This is my I like this print is very much. This is very big size. This is a plate lithography.
They literally documented architecture
Uh,
from
This again Dharavi and all that, all
Speak.
using this plate lithography, and the huts are the. This I got a state prize for this particular print.
And okay, so the last one is the eventuality that we have to deal with, like in the sense that when you are saying that you know capital is moving away from the south, but that also happens in stages where they let it rot, let it decay for a bit, and then they can always gentrify the place later. And you abandon that core, you move on to some other core, maybe move it back. But then I wanted to say at that time that if it's still there, it's still land, then maybe you can consider doing that. But then there is a real possibility now that in the next 50 years we might have to abandon the city as such.